Welcome to the Launch Button Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of successful entrepreneurs and real estate investors who found the courage to hit the launch button and take control of their destiny. Join me, Hugh, best-selling author, seasoned real estate investor, and serial entrepreneur, as we dive deep into inspiring stories and invaluable lessons that will empower you to break free from the ordinary and pursue your true passions. Are you feeling trapped in a job that drains your passion and leaves you yearning for more? Are you ready to accelerate your business and or real estate investing to take it to the next level? It's time to ignite your dreams and embrace the limitless possibilities that life has to offer. Get ready to launch into the life you've always desired by pressing the launch button. Welcome back to another episode of The Launch Button, where we talk about finding your passion, launching your career, or taking your business to the next level. And we want to make sure that you've got everything you need for success. So today we're talking with another expert. We've got Sean Delaney here from New Jersey, right across the river here.
Hey, I am across the river. I can almost see you.
You can almost see me, right? We get together for events in the city and all across the country. But Sean's got an amazing background, all the way going back from his days in college. He might share what he did there, but also he's worked with Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies. And now he's decided, you know what, I want to make a bigger difference, because it didn't make a huge difference to those companies, but I can help entrepreneurs and business owners take their business to the next level. And Sean, welcome to the show, and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Hugh. Yes. So I am Sean Delaney, and for 25 years, I have worked with some of the biggest companies in the world, household names, Nike, Uber, J&J, MetLife, the list goes on and on. And I found over that time that, yes, all business is essentially the same at its heart, just an exchange of value between individuals, and that it could very quickly overcomplicate your business, your life, your world if you follow big business as an entrepreneur, if looking at them as the model of how business should be done. And I had this mantra, though, of saying, you know, all business is the same. And finally, the question got put to me that changed my life, which was, well, if you're industry agnostic and company size agnostic, and you say that everything works if you put the right elements together, then could this help entrepreneurs? And I said, let's find out. And that has been more fulfilling, because in just one of those contracts, or one of those institutional sized companies, I saved them $30 million a year. That was going to be over 3 years. So 90 million for those of us that are doing the math at home. And guess what? Nobody cared, Hugh. Maybe the people who brought me in cared, because I solved a big pernicious problem for them. But
they might get a little bigger bonus for them.
A little bigger bonus, but we're changed. The stock market didn't care. Didn't move the stock price, and so I said, "What a soul-sucking, thankless job this is." But you make that kind of change for an entrepreneur's business or a much smaller size company, and now they say, "Good Lord, you've taken the brakes off. We can scale to the size and scope that we need to. I can go to college. My dreams can come to fruition. That's the place I want to play." And so hence, that's when we started a different kind of model and helped in much smaller chunks get to those places and scale further, faster, while having more fun.
Awesome. And let's just talk about your progression. It wasn't a straight line of how you got to where you are today, right? Most entrepreneurs, you tried things. It was the up and down. It's the entrepreneurial roller coaster. And you went to school to be an attorney, right?
Yeah, so I worked my way through law school as a stand-up comedian, then found out both professions were exactly the same thing, and I lost faith in both of them. No, well, I found out that the games we play often are not the games we think they are. I was a stand-up comedy and realized that stand-up comedy, the game of it, wasn't honest. It wasn't to make people laugh. It was to fill a spot, help the club. There were politics involved, all kinds of dynamics. And I said, well, who cares? I'm just doing this on the side. I really want to go and work with the law. It's about justice. It's about saving the planet. No, and then guess what? I found out that game is not that game. The game of practicing law is not about truth and justice and saving the planet. It's often about seeking a conviction if you're a prosecutor, seeking an acquittal at all costs if you're a defense attorney, and may the better party win because you're better at your job. Sometimes, maybe that could happen. And I said, I don't want to play a game where if I'm really, really good at this thing, sometimes a lot of bad stuff could happen, especially since I went to law school to be an environmental attorney, and all the jobs I got, when I came back to New Jersey were from big defense firms defending the people who just killed a whole bunch of whales that I was trying to save. It's like that. This isn't the game I want to play either. So let's go into the honest and true game of business, because that has to be set up in a way that we can all agree, right? How it was. But so I have a lot of different variations and iterations of who I am in my career. And it was always, though, with the purpose of seeking the greatest truth that I could find anywhere. If truth anywhere is truth everywhere. So find the truth, find the easiest path to how things probably should be in a more harmonious and easy flow of value exchange between individuals. And so once I put that lens on and realized that most of what we know about business is a lie perpetuated by those winning at a game that we never agreed we wanted to play. Once I realized that, and that we as entrepreneurs could take agency and ownership over our lives, our career, our impact in the world, just by saying, I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to play a game that's true and honest to me. Wow, does that have an impact? And if I can proliferate that to as many businesses as I can around the globe before I die, and so far I'm hoping that heaven doesn't want me and hell's afraid I'll try to take over, I might be immortal, Hugh. So I might have a lot of years to do this work. I may have who knows how many, right? So,
Yeah. But so
but
that's so true. So you learned it in the comedy clubs, like, hey, it was a game,
it was a
right?
game.
And we've all had different jobs and like that. And you saw the game, and then you went into law, and you saw the game, and then you went into business and saw the game. And
Yeah.
it really gets to a point where you just get to create your own rules if you control the game. And
You
that's what a lot of
control the
people
game.
want, right? When they leave
Don't play someone
corporate
else's
scene.
game. Someone else is designed for them to win. So decide the game that you want to play, and then say, this is the one I'm going to play. I use the funny example when I speak. Well, I think it's funny where people say, "Oh, you must love poker." No, I hate poker. I hate it. It's a game designed where if you're a liar, if you lie well enough to me, not only do you get to fool me, but then you get to take my money. This game sucks. I don't like that game. I like to play Go Fish. I have my set of cards. I get to ask you if you have any twos, and if you have them, you have to tell me, and then I get to ask you if you have any threes and vice versa. It's glorious. We're all playing by the same rules. The rules allow us to have fun in safety. That's where fun lives, inside the containers of safety, which comes from, we all know the rules and we all agree to them up front. If you're playing a game where you could get hurt, could lose in real ways, that doesn't sound like a game like that you should be playing. Even if you think it's designed for you to win, I don't know that that's probably the best game. There are different games you can play.
And unfortunately, that's what happens with a lot of people, right? Business and different things. They think they're playing one game, but yet they're playing another game. Or they think they join a group because not only is it about, the business, but it's about the people you surround yourself with, right?
Yeah.
Have the same value systems, the same integrity, the same, all of the different things. And yet you think you're playing that game and somebody else is playing a completely different game behind the scenes.
Yes. And that's when then the bells and whistles start to go off. Hugh, we've been in the rooms where we go, wait a minute. The people running the game say that it has these goals and these purposes, and therefore logically, I think they should be showing up in these ways. They're not. What is happening? And then once you realize they're playing a different game, now they can claim to be the most integrous person in the world, but they ain't if they're playing a different game.
And
The one
unfortunately,
they they're playing, right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but sometimes even bad situations like that, like Sean and I were part of a group and we found that out. And then yet it formed our friendship, and Brandon too, who's Sean's business partner, it formed our friendship and showed us who had the values that we value. We value that integrity. We value that, hey, I'm going to have your back no matter what. Hey, we're going to go do these things. And that sometimes relationships are forged in those fires. Right? I would say 9/11 changed my life because it did, but it forced me to look at things differently. And each time you've had to shift and move through your different journey, you've started to look at things differently and say, hey, how can I adapt that? Right?
Well, yeah, and so that's the first thing I look for now is do we have core value alignment? Not mission alignment first, because two people could say they're rowing towards the same spot on the horizon, but they can have very, very different reasons for that and have very different values, and that's not an alignment. And so if I have first core value alignment and say, this is exactly who Hugh is in the world, great. Then when you say, hey, let's try doing something together, come into New York for an event, or come speak on a stage I have, or can we talk together about this company's problem? I know somebody said, well, what's your arrangement with him? Do you guys have a contract for how this is going to work out? Because, you got to protect yourself. I did the protection part first by making sure that I know exactly who he is. Now that I know this core value alignment, the rest is details. We'll figure it out. But if I don't have that, then yes, absolutely. As a recovering practicing lawyer, I would say you need to dot every I and cross every T, because you didn't do the first part first, which is, do we align in core values, not just mission? Core values first, mission second. Do we serve the same people? We think the same way, not the same things, very different. We think the same way about things, and therefore usually come to the same kinds of conclusions, but we know how each other shows up in the world, how we like to play, and then once we know we're serving the same people, and there's lots of places we can riff and jam together and don't need those other details, and know that we're safe to play because we're in the confinement of what? Rules, and the rules that you and I both agree on. So it all then lines up pretty easily.
Yeah, and it all makes sense, and it's easy to negotiate stuff. It's easy to get stuff done because you're like, all right, I know I don't have to watch my back. And that's the biggest thing for a lot of business owners. They're always worried about having to watch their back. So now you talked about, you created new rules of the game, which you guys call harmonious business, harmonious notes that you like to play, because Sean also is very musical and he's got a love for Prince. So I'm surprised there's no purple here today, but we got it. Not just for you, Brandon. Listen to the podcast later. Talk a little bit about the harmonious notes that you like to play.
Yeah. So harmonious is an acronym, and it's also the state that we desire to see in a person's business. And so it serves both masters there. So what is the harmonious business architecture? So the harmonious set of notes are the 10 disciplines that every business needs. They're present in every one. Now, they might have different volumes of complexity in them. So risk management for a plumbing business, not to make it sound like it's not important, but a risk management solution for them is very different than a global company that has lots of people's secured data, right? And they have all kinds of HIPAA compliant information. Their risk management program is way different than that other one. But that doesn't mean that the plumber doesn't need to think about risk management. And that this is true of any business anywhere. All 10 disciplines must be honored and must be connected to each other. That's the real game changer, is connecting the disciplines in the right way. So what we do is we look at businesses and we say, of these 10, what are the appropriate volumes we should see given who you are in the world, where you are right now, and where you'd like your business to go? How are we overcomplicating things? And why are we doing that? Is it because we have a fear that we're trying to address, because it's just the place we're comfortable? So if I'm talking to a marketing firm and they keep going to marketing conferences where they have marketers talking about marketing to marketers, and it's all marketing all day, every day, and to me and say, I'd love for you to help us with our marketing, I go, man, you got a real hankering for some marketing in your life. I don't know that we're solving the right solution. Maybe we're overcomplicated in one of these disciplines. We're trying to do too much. Is it because we're chasing some much bigger company? We think because Nike's doing something that applies to us, or are we? It's comfortable there. It feels right. It's where we like to play, and so we're undervaluing some of the other disciplines. So we look at the appropriate volumes based on where you're trying to go, and then we connect all those disciplines in the right way, and we strip down what you don't need. So a lot of times clients are afraid we're going to tell them about a whole bunch of new things they need to do. And 80% of our work with companies is to tell them to stop doing a lot of the stuff that they're doing, because it's just unnecessary and is not helpful for their mission. And so we eliminate the 80% of the garbage that they're doing. We get them down to the 20% that really matters in each of the disciplines. And then we start to dial up the complexity as their business now starts spreading its wings on this new lighter version of itself that's really honed in on the fun and the value that they are trying to achieve in the world when they started their business in the first place. And then watch the profits roll in and they go, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. Yes, because now it's fun again. It lights you up. It does all the things that you intended it to do with the barest minimum of effort and input of capital, time, and thought.
I think that's the biggest thing I've seen with some of your clients, right? Because we've been working together for a while now, is that like oftentimes you're just stripping them down to their core. Be like, hey, because as entrepreneurs, oftentimes people just add on services or add on products as somebody's talking about it versus being like, I just did that because I needed to make money here or got over complex without understanding how to run that part of their business, right?
Yeah, there could be reasons for why they would do that, very different reasons, but the outcome feels the same, which is they've run in so many places, they filled in so many gaps, they chased a dollar or quick opportunity in places, and now the whole thing just feels like this lumbering behemoth. It's a Frankenstein. It's alive, and nobody wants to look at it, and we're all afraid it's going to kill us at some point. This is not the way to build a business, right? So we strip it down to what is it that you're really trying to achieve? And you've seen me do this with many people where they come and they go, here's my big intractable problem. And it's because it's like, wait a minute. You have 6 different problems you just described to me, and you've all lumped them together into this octopi of, right, or this octopus. No, it's not what it is. And so I will whittle it away to now. Go back to that one thing you said. Who told you that? Well, I guess I just always assumed that's the way it is. Well, it's not that way. Now we can start to unwind this problem. But you started with a false premise, and then you tacked on 15 riders to it because sometimes we need, as entrepreneurs, we need problems to be big, hairy, and unsolvable because we don't have the answer and we don't want to look like we don't have the answer. And if somebody can show up and tell us our problem was simple, it makes us feel foolish for not having solved it ourselves. So instead, we overcomplicate it and we tie all kinds of things onto it so we can say, look, it's not my problem. It's either just the way it is. It's the marketplace. It's the government. It's my employees. It's the yada, yada, add it all on. No, it's you and how you're thinking about it in the first place that has you stuck. And so the number one thing that we do at What If is, it's why upside down D, well, it's upside down question mark, but we have this D is an upside down question mark because we turn questions on their head and we look at things, we disrupt first. You're not seeing it clearly. Someone has had this problem that you have and someone has solved it. Maybe elegantly, maybe not so elegantly, but we will show you a way to strip it down to what is really the root cause and solve it there once and done. I think that's a beautiful solution. And we'll probably have fun doing it. That's why the play button here is the dot on the D in What If.
And we're all about having fun, right? Business isn't fun, then it's not worth doing, right? Then you just
draining otherwise.
Yeah. You created yourself a job. So now I know you guys are branching out. You're also a part-time COO of other companies and getting into some of the environmental space that's bringing you all the way back with some potential products coming out in some different companies with that. And then you also dialed into understanding, you said there was one part you guys were missing and you found a person or me that's been studying people and how they've worked within a business or within their life. And you're starting to play around with that technology that should be launched by the time this podcast comes out. The app will be live because it'll be, this probably won't come out to mid to late January, if not February, but it will be live. So tell everybody a little bit about that new mission of your business.
Yeah, it's super exciting. So before we had the 10 elements, and one of them is home. That stands for humans optimized in a meaningful environment. And we talk about ways that we could create processes and ways to think about hiring and I of artificial ways to get at a problem I was trying to solve for, which was not having the right people in the right seats, aligned to the mission and the core values in the right way, so that people felt like their jobs were more fun, they're more energizing, and you could get more productivity out of them, and they would stay longer and they would work harder and be a dynamic, productive team. All of that kind of stuff. But
just before you go into that, so for everybody here, because Sean will go into the full harmonious architecture in our private podcast. So if you go to the launch button, podcast.com, you sign up there, you'll get the full access to the full harmonious, because he's just talking about the first part here, home, and then you'll get that in there. But sorry, Sean, I just want to put that in there for everybody. Now you're making it better.
Beautiful, beautiful. So what was there was the only way I had to do to try to tell other managers who can't intuit the human part how to be a better manager. But that only goes so far, because managers and leaders, 2 different things. Again, that's for the deeper into the elements. That is intuition. Some of that is born. You can learn to be a better leader. You can learn to be a better manager, but some of what I couldn't get to was the intuition as to who should be where. And when my business partner, Brandon, brought me my new business partner, Way, he said, look, you're going to love this guy. He's a wizard on a different level. This is what he can solve for. He can do the one thing we could not do. And within 10 minutes of getting off the phone after our first meeting, I said to Brandon, a year from now, we'll be completely to him. And he's like, how do you know that already? I said, because they have the one thing we don't have, and we have the one thing they don't have. And so they tune up the instruments, they tune up the orchestra, they optimize humans to the core of who they are. And I'll talk about what they do in a second. And then we tell them the notes to play, right? Because they had been working with companies in Silicon Valley about to get giant investments. And the investors were saying, yeah, I'm going to give this money to these people, but do they have the right people? How can you know that? And they said, beautiful thing. We have a technology that is able to tell a person who they are, how their DNA, it's encoded in how they show life, how they think about things, what motivates them, what lights them up, what drains them, the kind of energy pool they have access to, the ways that it is best to speak with them about certain topics on certain types of day, how they should be eating, what their sleep schedule should be, everything. And it makes, ultimately, every human interaction between people better, easier, more as a open acceptance, complete acceptance for each other. And it just makes arguments, disagreements, friction go away. And it's amazing what it can do. Now imagine you've got this team and they're about to get this big influx of cash. The team's all up, but they actually don't know how to run a company. Well, they weren't telling them that. We are telling people how to run a company, but they're saying, yeah, but I don't have the right people. We're going, well, that part I can't help you with. And so this was a perfect, beautiful marriage. And they were, at the time, they said we should combine. We're about to release an app that will allow people to take this diagnostic and get daily tips for how to light themselves up, how to feed their drivers so that they are the most optimized version of themselves that they could be all day, every day. And it's kind of a personal assistant for them living their best life right on their phone. And that app will be free. And the beautiful next part of that is, and then if there is a business that says, well, this is so amazing in my personal life, I would love to be able to see my entire team and what lights them up and what motivates them, and how, if I'm going to have people having a strategic planning meeting, I should schedule that for Wednesday at 11 because they'll both be optimized at that time, and how I can get the best out of everybody, how I can shift jobs so that all their job responsibilities are only the things that feed their drivers, so they feel like, I never want to go home. This is the greatest place ever. I can't believe they're paying me to do this stuff, right? To have that kind of power to control your ecosystem and to be that is a beacon for people who want to work in a different way. I mean, what a beautiful gift for a business. Then that's layered over our harmonious business architecture. We then come in and say, now that you have these beautiful lit up people who are going to walk on water for you, let's tell you the bare minimum that they need to do in order to make everybody's dreams come true in a way that is truly harmonious and uplifting for the business. And if that doesn't sound like fun for an entrepreneur, I don't know what does.
Well, anything that takes stress away, like HR is always a big thing, right? You hear that with lots of people, like, do I have the employees in the right spot? And one of the biggest things that costs entrepreneurs a lot of money is they feel they can't afford certain people. And when they hire somebody, they put them in, and then that job sort of transforms and grows as our entrepreneur businesses sort of morphs. And now they start doing things they don't like to do. And then they get grumpy, like you say. And so anything that could help facilitate that and be like, no, let's pull you and shift it over to Bob. Right? And then be able to do that is going to just have a huge impact on an entrepreneur's business.
And then if that entrepreneur has more than one business, or if there's somebody who invests in a bunch of businesses, imagine now that they could look across a portfolio of 10 different companies, know exactly who the players are, what they're optimized to do, and what the best use skill sets are, and to be able to see apples to apples across your business, saying it doesn't matter what industry there are, or what their products are, what their size is. What I know is here are how harmonious is showing up in the volumes across each of these businesses, and I know who all the players are, and I know I have too many of one kind here at this business that's thriving. I can move the senior leader over here. The ramp up time for them to get their hands around what this business is that they're now in is dramatically reduced because they say, well, let's look at your harmonious business architecture. I know we're doing left-handed widgets here instead of right-handed widgets like at my old company, but it's okay. Or instead of left-handed widgets, we're doing insurance over here, and now I'm moving to sneakers. It actually doesn't matter as long as I know the harmonious disciplines, and I know what our scores are there, and I know who the players are. I can pretty quickly come in and start making the kinds of changes that I'm optimized to make, which is why you, senior leader or investor, moved me from that company to this company, because I can help over here and my skill sets best gel with this ecosystem. It gives you an incredible power and dynamic to have some fluid management and cohesiveness across varied companies that might be in totally different segments, sectors, and geographic locations.
Yeah, and there's lots of, in the past, there was all these different certifications on project management and all those types of things. Since that's what you're saying, hey, if this is installed here, I can go into another business and understand it real fast, right? Because it's the same style architecture, it's the same terminology. And I think that's what it is.
It's anywhere. And the thing is, you can't break it by moving it into a different industry or a different size category or nonprofit versus for-profit. None of the artificial categorizations will break its applicability, because the applicability is based on fundamental dynamics. And as long as you have people engaged in commerce, then it applies. So have at it, right?
So for people just starting out as entrepreneurs, looking to fire their boss, looking to, make that leap, what's your best tip or favorite tip for people looking to jump into the entrepreneur space?
Unlearn 85% of what you think it's going to be to run your business, because that's either going to scare you away from doing things you should be doing, scare you to do things that you probably shouldn't be doing, and will maybe not let you do it at all, right? You don't need to have all the answers, because trust me, not everybody who will give those answers to you are even asking the right questions. Find some kind of advisor that you can trust, like a Hugh, somebody who's done it before, somebody who's written a book on it. Find somebody like that to guide you in the right ways, somebody whose core values align with yours and who has helped people with a mission similar to yours. And so as long as you find somebody who has those two lenses, they care in the way that you care, so therefore you can trust them, and they have done the thing or helped others do the thing you're trying to do, so they know what they're talking about and how they think about the world applies there. Find them early and then listen to them, and be willing to ask the dumbest of questions, which is where I always start. I play dumb really well. So, and it's because I will be early on in the meetings going, now, wait a minute. When you say insurance, what's insurance? What do you mean by insurance? I just like, well, don't you know? I know what I think the answer is. I need to know what you think the answer is. And we can start at that baseline, right? So ask the dumb questions. Understanding comes from asking those questions. And so that's my second bit of advice. The first is find somebody who has the answers, and then get very good at asking questions and never lose that skill.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that you and I have both learned over time in business is that, and even in life and everything like that, is that people have a different definition for the same word. Mm-hmm. And too often we assume the way they're using the word is the way we think. And oftentimes it's not. They have a different definition. So we just make that assumption, and then we end up in different spots versus asking those clarifying questions.
I ask questions. Some of this come after I've asked questions about people's questions first before I even answer something, because again, I want to make sure I'm not assuming why they're asking what they're asking. So I give the best answer. So they'll say, well, is it A or B? And I'm like, are you asking me that question, Hugh, because you think dragons do exist? Or are we having fun in this conversation and you're saying, what if they did exist? Did exist. Oh, okay. So if dragons existed, I think the answer is this. And it's like, or a third thing. No, I'm not thinking either of those things. I just saw that there's statues behind you, and I thought one of them was a dragon. Got it. I almost answered that totally wrong. So much understanding comes from the asking of questions.
I think that's where a lot of people are afraid to ask that deep question, right? They stay at the surface level. And that's one of the ways you and I went deep was we got into those conversations and just question, hey, what does that mean to you? What are those things? And those little questions just allow us to get to that next level for entrepreneurs and people that want to launch their business. Now, in the private podcast, we are going to go deeper with Sean on finding out the core values of people, because that's where he starts. And that's where most relationships should start. But most businesses do it wrong. They lead with products, services, those types of things. Buy my stuff versus dive in deep. So, Sean, any last tips before we wrap up this podcast for people in business looking to scale?
I think we covered all the tips. I mean, my last one is be always and remain transcendent to whatever is going on, because that is where we thrive. Let's rise above it together.
And you've met business partners in church, you've met business partners at events, you've met business partners in all different ways. So the way you show up, people are always watching and seeing that core value of who you are. And sometimes that's where our biggest opportunities come from. Somebody that's been watching, and too many people jump into business relationships, sometimes too fast, because they haven't got to the core value. So we'll dive deeper into that on the Launch Button podcast in the private episode right after this. We want to thank you guys for being here. Sean, we appreciate your time here today. By the way, we got some events coming up. I look forward to seeing you in May in New York. I think in April we'll be in Colorado together. And then we run monthly networking events in New York City. So sometimes Sean shows up to those as well. So if you want to meet him in person, if you're in New York, Colorado, Seattle, there's a whole bunch of different places coming out this year. Check out the schedule. In 2025, we'll be hitting the road across the country. So if you want to hang out with us, just hit the follow, hit the likes, and we'll put all Sean's contact information in the show notes so that you can get the app.
Yes.
We'll see you next time on the Launch Button podcast. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us on the Launch Button podcast, your gateway to unlocking your true potential and pursuing your passions. Don't let the journey end here. For more empowering insights, valuable resources, exclusive content, and free giveaways, visit www.thelaunchbuttonpodcast.com.